Hello, friends. Welcome back to OFBF Conversations. We hope that you are having a wonderful week and that you have made it to Friday and you feel just ready to have some fun over this weekend. And I feel like a lot of people need just to have fun and to rest and kind of like, if you can, put away just some of the things you've been working on this week. And so we're excited to be with you again with these conversations that we've been having. And we would love to just say hi to you guys and, just be able to put your name with your face. So go ahead and as you jump on, tell us your name and where you're tuning in from. And we just want to see you. We want to get to know you, and maybe you will make connections, just as you're enjoying this conversation, because it is going to be a good one. We know it. We know where God is leading it, and it's going to be beautiful and just freeing. And so as you are commenting and sharing what God is showing you throughout this conversation, you're going to probably meet other people that you can relate to. And so we encourage that. We encourage you to tell us who you are and be known, and it's okay. Today we have this great conversation on servanthood. And maybe you have heard things like, to be great, you must serve well or be a great servant. I'm sure if you have been in church, in the entrepreneurial world, whatever, anywhere, if you're a Christian or been around any type of Christians, you've heard that saying. And it is from scripture. But maybe you have experienced it being used in a way that you felt guilty when you heard that. Like maybe I wasn't doing enough, or serving enough, or maybe that's the way that you've experienced servanthood. And so, I'm sure that you can think of all the ways that it didn't make you feel good. And that's not really why we're here it's not really to focus there, but I believe that it's okay to talk about that, because if we can't identify that is not okay, if we can't talk about that, then we kind of just stay in that place. And so that is why I want to talk about that just a little bit. And I believe Jesus said, talked about that to call us to greatness and not to guilt or shame us for not doing enough. And I believe that Jesus is always calling us to where we're seated, and he literally designed us to sit with him. So in Ephesians 2:6, it says, he raised us up with Christ, the exalted one, and we ascended with him into the glorious perfection and authority of the heavenly realm, for we are now co-seated as one with Christ. So I think that it doesn't matter what you've heard. It doesn't matter how servanthood has been presented to you. This greatest gift, right? It doesn't matter how it was presented to you. We're going to look on how God is presenting it to us. We get to look on that, and then we get to move from that place and not feel guilty to move from where he has called us, how he's called us to serve. And it's not to look down on anyone who may have said something different, all those things. I have been I'm sure I've led that way before. Okay, so this is not about that. This is about freedom. This is about looking in his word and going, God, what do you say? And let's do this right. That's what we're going to release, what he's releasing to us, right? So I believe that to rule and reign with him means to serve like him. And I believe it's from the place of where we're seated. And I believe what a gift that is. He gave, not only did Christ die for us right? But he seated us. He raised us. We were crucified with Christ. We were buried with him, and we were raised with him to be seated with him. So it wasn't just, okay, we're crucified, right? No, there was more. So we have to go all the way through. We have to go take it all the way through. And I believe that this has to do with, it's just, there are many things that this will lead us to live and be and from those places. But I believe that servanthood is one huge one, because I believe that if we don't get that, and if we don't understand that, then we will serve from a place of guilt. And we will answer calls that were not made for us. So I believe that there's more for us, and that's what we're going to look at. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And so he is the greatest, right? And so that's why we say servanthood, the gift of modern day greatness. We are serving others. We aren't serving others from that place of, well, I have to, like Jenna dropped yesterday. She talked about, I don't have to, I get to, right? And the Lord's calling for us is to be like him. It says, all that Jesus now is, so are we in this world. So what is Jesus, and where is he, and what is he doing, right? So all that Jesus now is, so are we in this world. That is in 1 John 4:17. So to be great, like we have been called to be great, to be great like Jesus, the greatest servant of all. And in Matthew 23:11, it says, the greatest among you will be the one who always serves others from the heart. So we get to serve from the heart. We don't serve from guilt. We serve from the heart. What is God speaking to you? What is pulling on your heart? You'll feel it on your heart. You won't feel it in your, you know how there's a knower, right? You won't feel it in your guilter, and you won't feel it like, when you feel the word, you feel guilt, like, oh my gosh, it's not a nice feeling when you feel that, right? No, but when you feel something in your heart, it's different. So we're going to talk about that. So some of the questions that we have today is, what does servant, because we are female entrepreneurs. We are Christian female entrepreneurs, right? Kingdom women. If you're a Christian female entrepreneur, you're a kingdom female entrepreneur. I don't believe that that's combined. So a Christian woman is a kingdom woman. And so what does servanthood look like in the entrepreneurial world? What does that look like for us? And what do you think? What do you think that looks like? Like, let's discover some ideas on what does that look like. So I think things like letting someone shine bright, right? Like kind of like, it's not, you're not hiding, but you're like, I saw this picture the other day of one person. They were shining really, they were big, and their presence was known in this room. And they started to let all these other people in the room, and it just like, they were here, and then they just kind of moved over, and all these people filed in, and they all were great. That's what I was seeing. So Jesus is the light of the world, right? He said that we are the light of the world. He gave us out his light. So I believe it's letting someone shine bright, and maybe even sitting with someone who others might not like or isn't the most popular. I think those are things we can do. We can see that in the room. Let it pull on your heart. These are just ideas. Taking the time to be focused in our conversations, like let that pull on your heart. Don't let it guilt you. Let it pull on your heart. Ask the Lord to show you these ideas. So I want to hear maybe either of you have any ideas on what servanthood would look like in the entrepreneurial world like that. If you don't, it's okay. You can come back to that. So, what about you guys out there? What are some ways what is servanthood? If you could think of that, what does it look like in the entrepreneurial world? Another question is in entrepreneurship or ministry, in the ministry world, when have you experienced this type of servanthood extended towards you, or where have you seen it extended to others? So, identifying that. And I'm gonna be honest, when I was thinking about it, I was like, where have I seen this? And I've seen it a lot, like in different little things and stuff like that. I've seen it. I've seen all kinds of stuff. So what have you seen? And I want to start with Jenna. Are you ready, Jenna?
Sure, yes. Okay. Whenever I was thinking about this question, a friend of mine just came to mind for me. We share studio space together, and she's an event planner and designer. And so with everything going on with COVID, she's had to reschedule, replan, and redesign so many weddings multiple times over. And so I just think about her, like she serves her clients so well from her heart because it's what she loves and she loves them. And she's so great at what she does that to me, she's just an inspiration and a great example of someone who just an entrepreneurial kingdom woman who serves really well.
Wow. Yeah. So you've watched her do that, and what kind of impact did that have on you?
For me, it's just an inspiration to keep going, because not only does she have all this additional work that she's doing for her clients, she's not getting paid extra to do it, but she's doing it out of that place for heart to just serve them well, so that whenever their wedding day does come, that it's everything that they could want and more.
Wow. So she took this place of serving in this time. Wow. Yes. Okay. That's really good. What about you, Britt? What have you experienced and seen it either being extended to you or others?
It was actually highlighted in the ministry side, but when I thought of it as both, like it was so applicable in ministry, but it is like mirrored it should be mirrored in business.
Yeah.
And I think about my pastor, who you think about pastors as like the person in power, like the leader, that type of situation. But I just feel like I've been so lucky and just so happy to have such a beautiful example of what servanthood truly like looks like. And it can be the example you gave about like being the light in the room and then allowing others to be drawn into that and elevated from that. I instantly thought of him, and I'm like, wow, thinking about that from like a business entrepreneurial standpoint, if you have a team, or even, if you have a team, like that's the perfect way. It doesn't matter if you're in a church setting or in a business setting, we are all called to be leaders. And so how do we cultivate that? We get to do that by letting others shine. And you were saying you're moving aside to make room for others versus moving aside and going away.
Yeah. Okay.
And so he's such a great example for me of what that truly like in action, walking it out and not just being like talking about servanthood instead, but really actually seeing it with my own eyes and being like, man, this totally applies to business too. Like how can we better serve our team how can we be a better leader, become a better servant? So,
come on.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, because it does, it really, it does mirror each other. He's been speaking a lot about, for many years, of not separating, the two. And and we can extend who we are in this, and we just don't shut off being kingdom women, and like we get to extend that wherever we are. And so what I've experienced was also from Caleb, and he was first my friend, and just walking with him and just watching how he served. It didn't change when he became a pastor of a church. It started way, I'm sure his whole life, but when I met him, it was even then, like he took a posture of, let me teach you how, and that, like moving over, come on, there's room, let's pack up in here, and, but one of the things that really, I think, stood out for me with him, I've watched him serve. It's caused me to serve that way. And I've watched him give money freely and to extravagantly, and to, I've been with him to Israel and watched him serve, widows and these orphans. And I've watched that, and it was such a greatness. And, I know it's the ministry world, but that's why I'm telling you, I had a hard time finding one for the entrepreneurial world. I haven't seen a lot of it. I have, I've seen leaders, jump in and set up rooms and, for these big conferences and things like that. But, I haven't seen it a lot, and it doesn't mean that it's not out there. It's just, I haven't seen it in a lot of ways, but I am seeing that happening. And I am watching that happen also in now, I'm watching the ministry and business kind of being combined in this time that we're in. And so now I'm seeing it, because maybe it's that it's always been there, but it hasn't been allowed to shine. And so my question was about really that entrepreneurial world. How does it go even in there? But I know ministry and business, but I think now we're in a time that it's like the cover is being taken off, and people are like, no, we're going to bring this into this world. And, so I am seeing this championing and this serving, and I'm seeing this happening now, but it's kind of slowly going into that world a lot. And Jenna has, really been greatly in a world of community for a while. And so I think you've seen that more, probably because you've been in on the ground in that world for a while. And I know, Britt, you have too. But it's okay that we have seen different things. And so if you're listening to this, you've probably seen things that we haven't seen, and we want to hear about it. Where have you seen that? What have you experienced, this type of greatness, this type of leadership, this servanthood that is really from that place of heart, from that place of not lack, of total heart. And just one instance that came to mind for me specifically was, I believe that when we see that also, I think it releases miracles. And there was one time when I didn't have any money to give, and I shared this a little bit yesterday, that I went through this time of our family not having a lot of money. And Caleb and Jamadi, these are my this is our senior leader and our pastors at my church, and Britt had mentioned it, but we were friends first, and they I watched them just give. And we were in a conference, and they were having this time of sowing, and I wanted to give. My heart was like, I want to give. I did not have any money to give at all. And I told the Lord, I want to give. And somebody gave Caleb an offering, and I know he wouldn't mind me sharing this. Someone gave Caleb and Jamadi an offering. It was like $300. Okay. Someone handed them money. I asked the Lord for money to give. They turned to me, did not know I asked the Lord this, and handed me $100 of that money they got. Okay. I took the $100 and put in the offering. Right? Okay. So lots of things were modeled here. That conference, they gave everything that they kept getting offerings. People kept handing them offerings, and they kept giving it and giving it and giving it and giving it. And when he handed me the 100, we had looked at, because this was a time when this was a while ago. And it was like, oh my gosh, somebody just gave, you guys, someone just walks up and gives you like $300. It might be more than that, I don't remember, but it was $100 bills, okay? And we saw the $100 bills. I asked the Lord for an offering from the heart to serve, right? I was drawn by the Lord. It was not a guilt moment. It wasn't any of those things, because the people who were leading the conference was from this, like, we get to, not we have to. It was that whole realm. I asked the Lord, Caleb and Jamadi, hand me the $100 bill. We had already seen their hundreds, all because we were excited that someone gave them money, because it was crazy. And he gave it to me. And then, so if he had 300, he gave 100, there was only 200 left. There was 300 in his hands. And we watched a miracle happen. And we were like, do it again. So we were like, I'm just servanthood. The gift of modern day greatness comes with miracles. It like, if the Lord, if Jesus, right? If we are like him, we serve from him, serve like him, serve from that place of being seated, all that stuff. So that's one that just really, I've seen that. And I know that this is probably happening in the entrepreneurial world everywhere, but I haven't seen it there, but we are gonna see it. And I believe that this is the beginning. Even other places are probably, they're starting this too. We're not the only ones, but from Oh Free Bird Fly, from this team, we're saying we're going to teach, we're going to serve from the place of where we're seated. And that is what we've been called to do. And so we are extending this to you guys and going, let's do this, let's do this. And so I hope that this encourages you and that it helps you just go, oh my gosh, that is what's possible, right? Okay. So, yeah, so that was a fun time. And so another question I have for you guys out there, and what, do you have a favorite place in the Bible that you see servanthood, the greatest gift, happening? What are some of your favorite places? We're gonna start with Britt.
When I was thinking about this question, I was just thinking like how amazing it is. We have the perfect example. If you like, we never have to wonder about what true servanthood looks like. We never have to know where to start. We don't have to like, I wonder what it looks like. I just kept like the image of Jesus kept coming to mind. And I'm like, there's no better example. There's no wondering. There's no, like, it's just, we have the perfect example in front of us every single day. And so I just felt like that was so highlighted to me of like, we never have to wonder, but you get to see, and your story just reminded me of like the feeding of the 5,000. Like thankfulness. He gave thanks to God and he served people and miracles happened. Like, it's crazy. So that, I mean, it's not like a specific example, but I just feel like all I kept thinking was like, we don't have to wonder, like, doesn't the pressure's off to be like thinking about what it's supposed to look like. Like, we just have to look at Jesus's life and we have written down what that looks like lived out. And it just confirms what you were saying about watching the miracles come from that, from from serving. And it's just, it was so good. Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, that's so true, because he he talks about, so when he says in Matthew 23:11, the greatest among you will be the one who always serves others from the heart. I think, it's like, what is the greatest? Remember, he says you'll do greater. What? Right? It all ties together. We're gonna, we'll do greater works. Like what, I just like it all just comes together. You can't separate them. So I want to check out, and then we're going to go to Jenna. I want to check out some of the comments that you guys are leaving us. Hi, Patty. We love you. Oh, I know you have something to share. We would love to hear it. Okay, so yeah, so Emma says she's seen some high-profile Christian entrepreneurs who have used money to set up foundations to help others like children and orphanages. Yes, that is, that is greatness. That is, you know what? I have seen, thank you. See, when we share, it sparks it goes, oh, I've seen this and I've seen that. And even yesterday, we were talking about, let's flood the airways with thankfulness. Well, we about to flood the airways with the greatness of servanthood, right? And so, Emma, you sharing that reminds me of, Dean Graziosi, or I don't know how to say his name, and his partner, what is his name? Oh, anyways, it's a gentleman. He's an entrepreneur, and they give so much money to I believe it's sex trafficking. And
Are you talking about Tony Robbins?
Tony Robbins,
okay.
Right? Yep. So those two men, and I'm sure all the people that they're connected with, they are in the entrepreneur world. And they have they hold this fundraiser thing, and all these entrepreneurs give, they're like, it's a joy to be able to do this. So your story or your comment, Emma, just reminded me of that. So thank you for sharing that. Jenny Lee says, hey, Jenny Lee, she says, he's not going to ask you to do something that he wouldn't do himself. Woo! Love it. I love it so much. Okay. All right. We love you guys. Keep sharing your thoughts on this, because it goes, oh my gosh, like even the story about the money just now, that reminded Britt about, oh, well, that, and all we need is like it to be brought to our minds so we can see the things. All right. So Jenna, where's a place in the Bible that you've seen that just reminds you of this?
Well, I want to piggyback off of what Britt was sharing first, because when we're thinking about, a message that is encouraging and equipping for female entrepreneurs. Well, I think about what are some struggles that entrepreneurs can face. It can be financial, like provision and things like that. And so I think about how the story where Jesus and his disciples didn't have tax money. And so he, in partnership with the Holy Spirit, hearing from the Father, he knew where to go to look for it. And he said to go get it. There was going to be a coin in the fish's mouth. And So for me, I think about that and go, oh my goodness, that the miracle, right? And the greatness of serving is that there's always provision for what you need.
Yeah.
And that to me encourages me right where I'm at, because if I'm doing what God's called me to do, I'm serving how he's called me to serve from that place in my heart where I love to do it. I don't have to worry about provision. I just have to listen to the Holy Spirit about where it's going to come from.
Yeah. You just follow, be Jenna.
Yeah. It can be miracle after miracle.
Jenna is like Christ, because Jenna is in Christ and Christ is in Jenna.
Mm-hmm.
So Jenna gets to be Jenna freely. And
then the other thing that I thought about too with servanthood is absolutely, Jesus is like the best example for us. He's the ultimate. But I did think about other stories in scripture about like Joseph in the Old Testament, how he served Pharaoh and how he served the jailer whenever he was put in jail. Yeah. And how he was always second in command. He was not the head honcho. He wasn't the Pharaoh or the jailer, but he served so well in the way that he brought solution to the nation before there was ever a problem.
Yeah.
And to me, I go like, as an entrepreneur, as a kingdom woman in ministry, I can partner with the Lord to serve whoever God has partnered me with and bring solution before there's ever a problem.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, because you don't know, and I think that's too where we really have to, one, not, we really can't look at somebody else and go, you're doing the wrong thing. Like we really can't. I don't think that unless like literally you get a down, like, because I've heard where without the Lord, you can't do that. And I don't think that we should make that a practice unless that's what God's called you to do. Like I've heard testimonies of, Chris Valentin on a flight sitting next to a young man who was doing this one thing with his life, but the Lord told him he's actually supposed to be doing this. So he released that word and it lit up the guy's life and he shifted his career and actually was doing what he's called to do. What I mean is that we don't know. We can't really look on as from a distance. That's why it's from heart. Look on from a distance and be like, well, they shouldn't be offering this for free, or they shouldn't be charging for this, or they shouldn't, because we don't know what God's called that person to serve. Now, you can do that if you want to get in their life and actually go like care about them and want to serve them and go, Lord, I want what's best for them. What do you have for them? Are you called to serve them? But from a distance, when we're not called to serve them, are we doing it from heart? Or, so I think about that really, we have to follow. If we follow where God's called us to serve, then that's where we need to go, is what is God calling you to do? I think about the different things of, every individual is different. We're all different. Joyce Meyer, she does not charge for any of her, God, they have this conversation about that she doesn't charge for any of her conferences, any of her things like that. That's what God called her to do. So she has to go that way. There's other ones that charge. Is that okay? Absolutely. Did God, they have to follow what God's lead them to do. I don't know how your answer led to that. So being freely serve where God's called you to serve. And I believe it is from the heart and not out of guilt and not out of being afraid what others will think. All that is that whole guilt realm. And my screen just moved. So y'all are gonna have to bear with me. There we go. Okay, it's back. I couldn't see anything on my screen. So one of my favorite places that I have many, but like I think about women in the Bible, and I was thinking about when Jesus was with the woman at the well. He was tired and he ministered to her. He stopped and he ministered to her and he called her to greatness. So I think that is extreme servanthood, is to come alongside somebody and to serve them, and like really take that time to call who they are, to ask the Lord, what do you say about this person, and take the time to pour into their life. And when you do that, that's just one. I mean, there's so many ways we can do that, but this is just one of my favorites. I think it mimics the ministry world. And when I say ministry world, I mean traditional, ministry. It's not a business, because there are ministries that are not a business, guys, but it can also be that is in the ministry world, the entrepreneur world, not separating that in any way, and ministering to people and asking the Lord, who are they? What are they called to do? And he called that out and he awakened greatness in her, and she went and did what she was made to do, right? And then it probably led others to do what they were called to do. So that's one of my favorites. You guys probably have your own. And so we would love to hear what are some things that you find that you see in the Bible. Like Jenna brought out one that was Joseph from the Old Testament. It's all throughout the Bible. It's everywhere, right? Rahab, risking her life. So we're going to give some tips on how we feel like you can extend like this type of servanthood into your business or your ministry. And I want to start with Jenna. What do you got?
For me, I just take a position of not needing to be the one who's seen. That for me is servanthood, and just serving from that place in my heart of serving the mission or the vision that I'm called to partner with. And if there are any other people that I'm called to equip and empower and encourage them in their direction that they're called in, I believe that servanthood in its purest form is the foundation. And if I think about it in a literal sense, like you don't see the foundation, that's under the earth. It's underneath the building, and I don't need to be seen. Like I know that if I'm called to be seen in the area, that Jesus will put me there. And so it's not to say I don't need to ever be seen, but I think you hear what I'm saying of like
that's not your motive. That's not your
right.
Your driver, the reason why you're doing something.
Yeah.
Good.
Just to take the position of being the foundation, because that is part of who I'm called to be. And somebody else might not be called to be that. But for me, I am called to be a foundation piece and help other people build upon, who I am, what I have to offer them, and let them just go do your thing.
Yeah, I see that.
Mm-hmm.
You're really good at that. Okay. Britt, what do you got?
I was just responding to Patty's testimony. It is amazing. I hate to pause, and it's so cool. I get just a testimony of faith, faithfulness. And anyways, so I'm going to go back and ask you to re-ask your question, because I was enthralled in that story.
That's
Patty.
okay. That's all right. The question is, how do you think we can extend this type of servanthood into our businesses and ministries?
I was so excited about this one because I feel like it allows us to, we can extend this by our own journey in growing and hearing God's voice. And so growing and hearing his voice for serving other people, you get to know, you can get like his intel on what somebody needs without even saying anything. Like, look at Caleb, and like the example of your money was so perfect. Like, you didn't even say anything. Like, so we have access to that. And so growing in hearing his voice, practicing that, getting curious and asking him the questions, like, what does this person need right now? Like, what does your colleague need? If they don't even have to seem like they're struggling. You can just say like, okay, if you are on a call or you're at work and you're like, what is it, Lord, what does this person need? You can practice hearing his voice, and you can be like, hey, do you need X, Y, and Z? Like, somebody just might need a hug. Somebody just might need a smile. Like, it could be as simple as that, but it could also be like, you could get a number in your head of like 200, and you're like, okay, maybe they may need $206 for something, and it's the exact amount. Like, that to me is, if you practice hearing his voice, you can't miss it when you are asking him. If anything, it'll encourage them to be like, no, I don't need $206, but like, you can't go wrong. And so I just feel like you get to extend servanthood in business and ministry by growing and hearing his voice and practicing hearing his voice.
Yeah, that's really good. I just think about like, asking like, what does your team need? What do your customers need? All those things. That's really good. That's a great place of how we can extend this into our business and ministry. And then
I think about the entrepreneurial world when people say, when you're doing if you're about to launch a product and you're about to launch something, like one of the most common things they say, and it's important and it's definitely good, is to say to ask your customers what they need or what they want. And that's good advice. I just feel like we have the opportunity to go one step further first and seek him first and what he's saying, because a lot of times that people don't realize that they need something until you present it to them. And so why would we, if I don't know that I need it, why would I wouldn't say it. And so we get to ask the Father who knows all to give us what they need. And so, yeah.
And then it makes it personal, because they're like, it shocks them. Sometimes even people don't want to say what they need. When you ask, well, what do you need? I'm good. Because they don't want to pose or
they don't know. I didn't realize
I
needed that. I didn't realize I needed that.
Wow. That's cool. That's a good tip. I love it. Okay. You guys might have your own tips too. Ladies out there, we would love to hear them. What are some things that how do you think we can extend this type of servanthood into our businesses and ministries? You get to take it and do it too. You get to take some of our tips. You can take your tips and go for it. So mine is starting from that place of knowing who you are and where you're seated. And I believe that will allow you to, it will allow you to serve from that place of heart, from freedom, and versus a place of guilt or lack. And you just get to move from that place. You get to serve in that way. And that will shift things. So asking God to give you a personal revelation of that. And then, however he leads you, you can, just search it, find it. What is it? What does his word say? Ephesians 2:6 is a great place to start. I think that's the scripture reference. Yes. Ephesians 2:6, start there and just discover that and move from that place. So you'll be able to move freely without feeling like you're going to miss out. So that's why I say start at the foundation of that, and then take each tip that they gave, and then take the tips that God's given you and just go for it and start just moving from that place. So, I hope that this blessed you and just kind of open your eyes to maybe new things about servanthood. We extend this because somebody, I was telling the team earlier that somebody shared these things with me. And when they shared these things with me, it changed my life. And that's why we have to do the same. We have to freely give what God gave us, right?